Welcome to the From Code to C-Suite podcast.
At HubPay, we can open up your account in 24 hours, fully digital, all through our website. Ideas are nice, but execution is the game. We can be your entire business payment solution, period.
Today, Kevin breaks down the real playbook for financial technology in the UAE. It's all about execution, AI, and stablecoins. How HubPay is moving onboarding and property payments in minutes, and the hard truths founders need to face if they want to survive in the next cycle. This is where Fintech meets reality. Let's get into the conversation.
Now there are no errors. There's just no errors, right? It's just completely accurate.
It's crazy.
So you can just literally, you've got all your documents, so you literally just drop them in, and then everything's automated.
Incredibly quick as well.
Under 60 minutes from end to end, from what we call stablecoin sandwich, so going from fiat in another currency, let's say INR, into crypto, into dirhams, into the developer's account here. But back then the narrative was like, no, the competition's ferocious. You got to absolutely forget about profitability. Profitability to idiots. Forget about monetization.
Kevin, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good, thanks, Liam. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. How's the summer treating you?
Yeah, toasty. Toasty as usual, but yeah, good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Did you say you was traveling back into this month, right?
No, this summer I'm staying put. We're too busy. I mean, the plan would have been, I think, like most people, to try and get out for a while, a bit of respite from the heat. Go play some place a little bit cooler. I have no plans to go anywhere for the remainder of the year at this stage. Work, it's just too full on, which is a good problem to have.
I know the feeling. I feel the same.
Yeah.
But look, let's get into it. Super happy to have you here. Thank you so much again. Would you be able to give us a bit of a brief overview of your background and exactly what you're working on now?
Sure. Yeah. So background, born Ireland, grew up England, went into banking after uni. When I was working in banking through my 20s, I was quite interested in microfinance and impact investment. I moved out to Dubai 2016 to look for a private equity job, actually not in the country itself, but use Dubai because it's a great hub to base yourself in. But I really wanted to go into more of a frontier market. So I was looking, I'd been previously on the ground in places such as Palestine, Libya, Malawi. And so I was looking for something in that area.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, different. But I wanted to go and do 5 years of kind of a frontier on the ground impact investment work. So I was applying for jobs at stuff like UNDP, Gates Foundation, etc. There are very few of those jobs in that space. And there wasn't that much on at the time. And when I was here, I knew that the UAE had become quite a hub economy, both at people and a kind of corporate level in terms of trading. And I was surprised there was no kind of fintech innovation. I saw, well, there's a good opportunity rather than go and invest in such a business to maybe build one instead.
Nice. Makes sense. I want to unpack the places you went previously,
Sure.
right? Any crazy stories, any interesting stuff that happened in Palestine, Libya? Where else did you say you went?
Malawi, Myanmar. Yeah, I think so Palestine originally had been, I was a volunteer English teacher.
Nice.
I did my dissertation, my degree in history, my dissertation on the Troubles. And so I was interested in the kind of conflict resolution and hence post-conflict investment, hence kind of frontier investment in terms to help turn around an economy. And so that's where the kind of the train of thought came from. One of the very effective tools for impact investment is microfinance. And I'd read a lot about that at university. I'd read the book Banker to the Poor by the now Prime Minister, Muhammad Yunus, who won the Nobel Peace Prize back in 2006.
Nice.
The godfather of microfinance. He developed Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, and that's why he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And so I was interested in that area. And so then I worked on the ground. I volunteered in microfinance projects and affiliated kind of financial inclusion projects in both kind of Malawi and Libya.
Nice.
And so I was looking to go and get a job in one of those kind of areas. But again, fairly limited.
Yeah, nice. And when you moved to Dubai then, was that totally by yourself? Did you move with family? Have the connections here? Or
no connections. Came out. I had a couple of friends here. Both you and I have come from the UK. There's 130,000 British here on the ground now, and they've been here for a long time and have a significant kind of footprint and are involved in every kind of major of the every part of the economy, from CEO of Emirates to a lot of kind of government advisor positions, etc. So there was some familiarity here, but it was intending to be a kind of just kind of a brief kind of posting whilst I looked for jobs in other kind of markets.
Nice.
And then it turned out 9 years later, it turned out to be a longer stay.
So let's talk about HubPay, right?
Sure.
Obviously the main thing that you're doing at the moment, and then we'll kind of reverse engineer how that will happen. But talk to me a bit more about HubPay. What do you guys do, and
Sure.
what problem are you solving?
Yeah, so I started doing the research on that during 2017, 2018. Again, significant amount of kind of cross-border and retail flow out of the UAE. A gateway really to the emerging world, which is what Dubai became successful with, right? It built the DXB airport quicker than anybody else. And so therefore it became the stopping point. And just like with the crossroads back in the UK 1,000 years ago, it starts with an inn at a crossroads and then ends up becoming a major city, right?
So, sorry, did you move over to Dubai specifically for that reason to start a business, or had you started it previously then moved to Dubai? Or
No, when I moved to Dubai, I was looking for jobs.
Right. Really?
And so when I was here, I saw the opportunity. Yeah.
Did you work for anybody here before you started a business?
No.
Nice.
No. I'd done 10 years in banking. I'd saved up my kind of money. I knew I wanted to move out of banking. And so I had a kind of a capital base to work with. And so I did some M&A consultancy when I was here. Then I started doing, I was doing some research into the kind of space. Then the Abu Dhabi Global Market brought out a Fintech license. So applied for that. At the same time, went through an accelerator program. And the reason we started HubPay, very simply was kind of in phase one, a kind of regional kind of transfer-wise, retail and corporate cross-border flows made easier. And then the view was always to expand that out into more of an Alipay solution you see it in China, where you become a broader kind of fintech solution.
Okay. What sort of things are you actually doing at HubPay then? If we talk about different payments and...
Yeah, we do retail, we do corporate cross-border. Our main focus now is cross-border. We've gone from being a cross-border payment solution to a full business platform now.
Nice.
And that change has really only happened in the last year. To be frank, we were too early in this market. Right.
Okay.
If you look at the UAE, there's barely any fintech innovation yet. There's a lot of noise, but there's actually very little execution. There's been some great success on the buy now, pay later businesses, notably Tabby and Tamara. But on the wider fintech space, barely anything. How many fintechs would be over 100 million evaluation? 2 or 3.
Yeah.
None of the big guys are here. From the West, the kind of Revoluts, the Wisers, and then from the East, the Air Wallets, the Alipays, from the US, kind of the PayPals. None of them are active on the ground. And that's been challenging because of the licensing frameworks being somewhat complicating and confusing. But also it's the broader ecosystem. So if you look at fintech successes in other markets, you did need enough building blocks around to start putting things together. And that's the case really in any kind of tech, right? You need an ecosystem.
When you started HubPay, was there any competition, or was you one of a kind of what you did at that time?
I still think we're one of a kind right now, to be honest.
Nice.
I think when we started on the retail side, we were the first fintech. We were the first fintech to get licensed in the UAE.
Wow.
And that was the end of 2020. We got licensed and we launched properly in 21. So we've been trading 4.5 years. In the scheme of things, pretty recently. On the retail side, the first 2 years, barely any kind of fintech competition. It was brick and mortar competition. Since in the retail, you see more options now with Etisalat, Kareem, Botim. On the corporate side, there are a handful, but they're very small. No one's got even close to market leader. And your main competition is still incumbents.
Yeah.
So the market's completely open.
Nice. Being one of the first and getting the first license here, what was the process for that? Was it difficult? Is it?
Yeah, we're Cat 3 regulated business, so an EMI. So similar to what likes of Monzo and Revolut would have had. They've now become full-fledged banks, but they were all kind of electronic money institutions initially. So still regulated, still have to get approved by a regulator. You're controlling client funds, whether it's a retail customer or a corporate customer. And so that is a lot of work across every aspect, a lot of regulatory work, a lot of documentation, a lot of processes, a significant team built up. a robust and well-developed tech stack, which you can either buy off the shelf, expensive, or build in-house, even more expensive, but it gives you much greater optionality down the line.
Nice. And then HubPay right now is a bird's eye view. If we're talking about geographies that you've got headcount in, offices in, I guess maybe transactions, revenue, all that sort of stuff. How does that look?
Sure. So we're licensed in 2 countries, UAE and Pakistan. We have gone live in the UAE for the last 4.5 years. Pakistan, we hope to go live this quarter. We shall see.
Nice.
Team headcount is 60 in total. Most of that is in the UAE, a small team in Karachi, Pakistan. And then our engineers and 1 or 2 senior in risk are in the UK. But most of the team is here in the UAE. Offices in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. The main kind of product we've got now is effectively a business platform. So we've got a solution for small, medium, and large businesses. One of the challenges here is if you come to the UAE, the ability to incorporate a company is highly efficient. You go to a DMCC, a Jebel Ali free zone, Raquez, wherever that might be. There's over 60 of them. You can get set up with a office, company incorporated, visas. Not hard to get your health insurance. You can get up and running very quickly.
Super easy, right?
Yeah. Getting a bank account, a bit more challenging. It can be months, right? Not always guaranteed. And the payment stack and the capabilities of it aren't too evolved. At HubPay, we can open up your account in 24 hours, fully digital, all through our website. We can give both dirham local account names, so whether and we can give multi-currency international account numbers as well across 35 currencies, which no one can do in the market currently. And then we've got a full payment suite of capabilities, whether you're trying to do international payroll from employees from Portugal to the Philippines, or you're looking to do corporate cross-border payments from Brazil to Japan, or indeed you're looking to send and receive in kind of cryptocurrency.
Nice. The businesses that are moving over to the region now that are using your, I guess, platform to set up banking, where would you say most of them are relocating from or setting up from originally?
Yeah, we're seeing a full spectrum. I mean, the UAE now has done an incredible amount of work in building this place out as a kind of global corporate hub.
Yeah.
We mentioned earlier on about it started with a kind of airport and it built out, and then DXB, largest airport in the world. Jebel Ali, I think, is number 9th globally in terms of seaport, largest in the region. And if you look at the other 8 seaports, they're all in China. I think one's in South Korea in terms of that top 10. Nothing is in Europe, right?
Yeah.
I think Los Angeles might be number 10. So when you look at the population masses of Europe or the US versus UAE, you can see how significant the infrastructure is here.
Yeah.
And then the kind of corporate infrastructure around setting up companies under English common law, all the facilities around that has made it enormously attractive. Very low corporate tax rate, and currently no income tax. So it's ticking a lot of boxes if you want to set up a business. I think what the shift we saw here was post-COVID, because post-COVID, I think there was a realization for a lot of businesses going, we can be a lot more flexible where we are. So I would say I've seen, let's take 3 different types of business. On a small business, I've seen an individual who was a lawyer, contractor, self-employed in the UK going, well, I've been working remotely through COVID and it worked absolutely fine for a year. I can carry on doing this. Well, I wouldn't mind living in Dubai for a few years. It's someplace different. So she comes out, gets set up, does UK hours. It's not a huge time difference, very manageable. And she needs to get a company set up and that. And then she built out that contracting team to have 2 or 3 people. So we set up with a starter account and we can do everything she needs. More of a medium-sized business, and that's the UK, medium-sized business. Somebody moved across from Germany. They wanted to do a marketing business. They had a marketing business in Germany. It was an existing business. They had about 20 people employed globally, because now you find everyone on Upwork or one of the other kind of job posting kind of sites. And they needed to, accept payments, but also pay out their payroll. And that's why I use the example of Portugal to the Philippines, right? And then a kind of larger scale businesses would be what we're seeing is something like some of the big property kind of companies here. So they're already well banked, etc. However, one of the biggest exports out of the UAE right now is property, because it's a great investment opportunity and it's a great place to have a second home. And if you're in an emerging market from Nigeria to China, it's a nice place to base yourself for all the reasons you and I know.
Yeah.
And so they need more sophisticated kind of global payment solutions, and that's what we're working on for them.
Nice. Good stuff. All right. Well, let's go back, I guess, to you mentioned you obviously studied in the UK, right? Went to university in the UK. What first sparked your interest? I would say technology, but I guess more broadly in fintech. How did you first get into that, and what was interesting for you?
Yeah, I think if I look back on it, I regret not spending more time in technology kind of growing up. I've got probably a better verbal IQ than a non-verbal IQ. So I wasn't naturally good at maths or engineering. I'd have been good at, let's say, my degrees in history, English history, business, etc. That was more my skill set. I wish I'd spent more time doing that. And I think, if you're on young people now, I think trying to get exposed to that, and there's so many tools now would be beneficial. So when I moved into it, I approached it from a very kind of corporate solution. Oh, you could build this account, etc. Then you have to go out and find an engineer. Well, that's what I want to build. How do I build it? Right. So that had been my approach into it. I think now, because we've got 10 engineers in the team, and they're really, really capable, I've got a much better understanding and around engineering and kind of product. But that has come really from kind of absorbing it from my team members.
Nice. What did you actually study at uni? And
history.
Then what was your first role? History,
and then went straight into banking grad scheme.
Still quite different then, things that you studied and things that you went straight into.
Yeah, in the UK, it's quite common that people do like generic degrees, right? The US and Europe wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And it's unusual.
Yeah.
So like if you're going to do banking, you do business and finance, right? Or you might even stretch to economics. Everyone does everything from English literature to engineering. And then you go and get a graduate job. The reality is if you're going into banking or you're going into accounting law, you do a training on the job or you do a conversion course anyhow. They want to see you've got overall capability. So yeah, it's very different from doing engineering where you do a computer science degree.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, so you went straight into banking, then you've mixed a lot with engineers that you're working with now. But I also noticed from your LinkedIn that when you moved to Dubai, did you... This setting up the company was your first role here, essentially, right? What was forgive me if I'm wrong, you did some like incubator system or something like that? What was that?
An accelerator program. So in 2018, I was like, right, I had this license out at ADGM. Now is the time, right? They've created a reg framework. I remember this happening in the UK during kind of 2010, 2012 period. Now's the opportunity. At the same time, then the DOFC was launching an accelerator program run by Startup Bootcamp. I think it's the largest accelerator program in Europe. So accelerator programs have been around about 20 years, the most famous being Y Combinator from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And what they are is like doing almost a mini MBA, like an executive MBA or something. The reason they were set up was to create a better filter system for the VCs to invest in startups. So we mentioned there about, getting into a grad job. Well, if you're going to hire something at, say, accountancy or banking, you look at the hundreds of thousands of graduates that graduate every year out of UK universities, and then you'll tier them from the best universities and who's got the best CVs, etc.
Yeah.
And that's your kind of filter mechanism, and then you'll interview them and take them in. So overall who's smart, etc. If you're in Silicon Valley and you're seeing 10,000 pitch decks come across your desk every month, how do you disseminate what's good and what's not, right? Because people can put together a great idea and tell a great story, but is it going to work? Do they have product market fit, right? Can this team scale, etc.? And so the accelerator program was there was established for two reasons historically. One was to act as that filter system where they would go through a rigorous interview process, and then they do a 3-month kind of program, and then you'd have some more clarity on who's kind of good. And then the second one was to get them kind of almost investment ready. So if you look at Startup Bootcamp, I think the stats from in 2019, when I went through that program, was 2,000 applied. I think they also filtered down to, let's say, 600-700. They interviewed 600, and then there were 4 rounds, and they just dwindled it down like they would like anything else in jobs. And then they finally selected 10.
Wow.
After 2-3 months. And on the second, there were 2 kind of demo days, just like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. It's exactly that same setup.
Are you completely by yourself at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Really? So there's no team around you? Just all doing it around? Okay,
there's
nice.
no one. So you've put together a standard pitch deck, standard 10-page pitch deck that you would have seen. That is now pretty ubiquitous in the industry. What's the problem? What's the solution? How are we going to do it? How are we going to build it? I would have found something at Upwork to go and build an MVP for me. I'd get some initial kind of market research and testing to validate it. Here's how we're going to do the licensing. Here's how we're going to get it, etc. Here's my initial team that have said they're going to work with me. And so, you pitch, and then you see the other, I think in the second last round, there were 20 of us. No, there were 40 pitching, or 40 to 50 in the second last round, and they went down to 20 the last round, and they selected 10 out of the 20. But in that even the last 2, I was like, that's a better plan than me. He's speaking better than I am. And you get guys going, yeah, this is my 3rd startup. I've exited 3, sold 1 to Google.
Oh my God,
and
really? Yeah.
And like, cool, yeah, I'm screwed, yeah. And so there are some very good, but luckily enough got through that.
I bet you was buzzing. What's the time period of all this going on? Is it like a couple of month period or?
Yeah, it was done over a few months.
Yeah.
It was probably done over 2-3 months. They move pretty quickly through it, and you get so just like it was getting a grad job in many ways. But the pitch presentation, I'd done that before. I did some entrepreneurship at university, and I looked at that. So there was some similar thing, but yeah, definitely it's pressured.
Yeah.
Right. So you got through that, and you went to that program, and I must say that 3-month program was just awesome and really valuable. And that's one of the recommendations I would give to any startup. Go through an accelerator program, because if you've got an idea, and I've had a lot of people pitch to me and said, "Hey, can you introduce me to VCs? What do you think?" The first thing you'll do is you'll show your friends and your family. Your friends are like, "Oh, it's great," because everyone loves an idea. Ideas are great. It's lovely to have an idea. Ideas are nice, but execution is the game, right? And so you need to be in a fairly ruthless, objective environment where, okay, ask somebody if they like the idea, they'll say, yeah. Ask somebody to cut you a check.
It's a bit of a reality check, I guess, for a lot of founders, right? They have these unbelievable ideas.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when you're showing it to your mum and dad, then everyone's going to be yes.
And most people can't come up with those ideas, right? And then so are creative people. And there's also then people who can come up with the idea, but they need the other person in the team maybe to be a commercial officer or a product officer or somebody else to help build it. And so that's why, for example, a Y Combinator, I think the rule still stands where they will not take sole founders.
Really, yeah.
Dual founders only, because they've got a better success rate.
Makes
Simple
sense.
as that, right? Look at Google, and they, so you hear about the Facebooks, like Mark Zuckerberg, who was fairly on his own, really, in the scheme of things. Yes, he brought in other co-founders later on, but it was a later stage piece. But there's a lot more out there who had success as dual founders.
Nice. What would you say some of the biggest challenges that you have faced? I guess going through the stages, right? Starting up after you've got your first round of investment, is that how it worked? You got investment, you started up and then scaled, like what sort of issues?
Yeah, so the way it normally works, we followed a pretty standard process. You had an idea, you vetted it out, you spent a while getting that out, going back and forth and pulling that idea together. Then you go into an accelerator program, you come through the accelerator program. After that, you start fundraising, you raise the seed round. Then you'll get an MVP into market. That's worked. Then you can go and raise a bridge round, follow-on round, and on to Series A, etc. And we have followed a pretty traditional route in that. And I think I didn't answer your question. You said, what's challenging?
Yeah.
All of it, every single stage, right? So, you're going through an idea and you just need to keep ruminating on it. I think so the idea phase and building it into something real, especially when you haven't done it before, right? So if you come out of any kind of job, you learn more in 6 months doing a startup than you would in 10 years in banking. Yeah. Because if you're in a big company, et cetera, your role becomes very niche, very siloed. I remember saying that to my colleague back in 2015 when I was talking about, I said, would you go and do your own thing once? And I generally wasn't thinking about it, and he was like, no, I'd never take the risk. And I said, I think you're underestimating the risk you're in now. Yeah. Because I went through the global financial crisis in 2008 and I saw entire divisions in banks and entire banks wiped out. Well, if you've worked in, let's say, mortgage-backed security for the last 7 years and the mortgage-backed security industry is now vaporized, what do you do?
What on earth do you do? Yeah.
Well, I'm really good at securitizing and underwriting that. Well, that is just wonderful. Great. You can apply that to the square root of nothing, my friend, right? And on the street, there's now 100,000 people who look exactly like you, wearing the same Patagonia gilet, right? So I think that's the challenge. You do not have a broader skill set. And I think that's one of the regrets I would have of not doing stuff earlier on.
Yeah.
Right. Building that wider understanding, wider skill set. So that's a hard part. Getting to accelerator, was work, but you got that once you're in there. I found that enormously valuable. Fundraising is a nightmare, right? Building the right team and getting going. And so I would say every few months I normally I do a variety of talks, but one was to a business school, and the business school was in Spain, and they had about 30 graduates coming over to Dubai. They're like, hey, we've heard this is the city of the future, etc. And I said, yeah, I think that's a correct assessment. I think what they're building is incredible. And they're like, a lot of people think about building here to startups, and would you suggest it? And I said, possibly not,
In this region specifically, sorry, or okay. Why would that be?
And so that goes to the hardest piece there is the single most important thing when you're doing a startup is who's around you.
Yeah.
And what I mean is your network, because those three problems I just highlighted are solved by the network. You have an idea and you want to bounce it around people. Who do you want to speak to? Other people who've done it before. You want to recruit a team. You want to find other people who are either looking for roles or think about doing something and you work together, etc. You want to raise money. Well, you go and speak to somebody going, hey, bro, I know you've launched a fintech a few years ago. What do you think of my deck? I think that's good. Is it good enough for you to raise it to VC? It's either yes or no. I actually do think it is. Let me have a word with them. The VCs love warm intros. In fact, the VCs pretty much are solely reliant on warm intros because, again, they get 10,000. Will they go around to demo days of Startup Bootcamp, Y Combinator? Absolutely. However, what is golden is if you've got someone like Hossam Arab, who is CEO and founder of Tabby. One of my first VC call was he introduced them. He's like, yeah, I think these guys are good. And then the head of that fund, who's a billionaire, goes, right, you've got 30 minutes, go.
Gosh.
Right? Now that is golden.
Yeah.
Right. And so those VCs were relying, well, who's the best to call this in the market? People in the market who've done it before.
When you were setting up, right? What was your, I guess, support network like? Did you have a good network of people?
No,
Did you have a mentor or?
No, absolutely awful. And this isn't, this is not to denigrate the UAE. It's very new here, right? Where do most of the startups come out of? University campuses is a big one because people have time and you put a lot of people together, right? UAEs do have universities. They don't have big campuses. You're not having a Stanford. You don't have, look at what is one of the things the UK is the best at globally is life sciences. Why? Because it's got Cambridge Science Park. Now, Cambridge is a small university, but Oxford's down the road, London's down the road. There's only about 1,000 other universities across the country and in Europe, right? So there's a lot of, there is a big ecosystem to draw on there, right? You go to a tech meetup, you jump on the train and you're at one, etc.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard here, and that's just a state of it's not everything is done wrong. It's getting better all the time. Look at NYU Abu Dhabi. There's American universities of Sharjah. And there's a number of other things happening, but it's still quite small.
Do you think they're still trying to model what European universities are doing now? Do you think it will eventually be like that in the future?
I think, again, it's critical mass is a big thing. The country's 10.5 million people, right? There's a challenge. I think if you get more openness across the region, Saudi builds that up, etc., that potential, Saudi's got 30. So I think that's a challenge. I think where the UAE's got a real angle is later stage startups. Series B, Series C, you want to grow internationally, come over here now, we'll give you some incentive scheme. They've done that with a few of them. And that's, play to your strengths, right? If you're a business you're looking to scale up, or you're looking to the next phase, etc., this could be a very attractive area because I don't think there's a lot of money at seed stage at all here.
Yeah.
Past Series B, there is a lot of money. A lot. The sovereign wealth funds are absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Family offices will like profitability. They've shown the value of the stock market here with Dubai Financial Market. They've got the ADX in Abu Dhabi, so two stock markets in the one country. Talabat's IPO was ferociously successful.
Yeah.
the Tadawul in Saudi, where they're looking to get a number of companies to line up to IPO, of which Tabby might be one.
Mm-hmm.
So there are, so I think a later stage position. Now, can they back off and build it out? Yeah. As a country gets bigger, as university campuses get wider, as industries get more diverse and more established, that will happen.
Nice.
But I do think, going back to your point, what was the hardest point? I think the biggest thing with any founder is put yourself when there's a big community. So you can hire, so you can get advice, so you can raise funds. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. I suppose you haven't really got the comparison in terms of you didn't set the business up in the UK originally, but you have got people there, or you do operate across there, right?
We do there now, but I went back there in 21 because so what happened was we founded in ended 2018, it came together, 2019, Startup Accelerator, applied for license, 2020, got the license, raised seed round during COVID, launched MVP at the end of 2020, 21 carried on scaling the business. And then we're like lining up for Series A, and we were using a third-party platform as effectively our core banking platform.
Right, okay.
Now, the big question was like, this platform wasn't fit for purpose. Do we use another third-party platform? And so if you look at the company, and what I mean by that is companies like Mambu, Thought Machine, they effectively do kind of fintech banking in a box, right? And fintechs like N26 in Germany, so like they were kind of Revolut of Germany, which has done very, very well. Pretty much use Mambu as a core platform, right? And it's worked well. And so the big question with a lot of these things is, do you buy or do you build, right? Our view was buying made more sense if we were doing it in Europe, where there's a lot of connectivity already plugged in. So the way to think about it would be, let's say you are launching an e-commerce business. Now you can use a variety of platforms, and they're connected to all the payment gateways and all this stuff. So if you've got, let's say you're a designer and you come out with a really cool bag, right? And you go, I'm going to launch an e-commerce site. You can literally get an e-commerce site off the shelf. It's plugged into everything. You can go,
easy,
right? With the banking platforms, they were plugged into nothing here. There was no, Europe had gone through PSD2, which mandated the banks had to work with fintechs. The banks had to create APIs, right? And so there's all these building blocks in place. That did not happen here. That has still not happened here.
Yeah.
And so there was no point buying off of something on the shelf that was plugged into nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So we needed to build it. And so therefore I needed to recruit fintech engineers. There aren't really any in the region. There are now more. But at the time there certainly weren't. So I went back to London in 21 and I started recruiting.
Nice.
And then we built up a team. Our CTO sits outside Manchester. He has a team of 9 reporting into him, most in the UK, 1 in Europe, and then 1 here.
Nice. What was the first few hires you made? Like, I guess from you to the first 5-10 hires, what did that look like?
So if you're a regulated fintech, one of the challenges you have to have, there's mandatory roles.
Okay.
So you have to have chief financial officer in. You have to have a money laundering reporting officer to make sure you're not money
Is that before you start building anything? These guys have got to be
you've got a team of 5 basically, right? So you had a team of 5 and in 2020. So as part, that part's very difficult when you're trying to raise seed money. You're trying to get somebody to join you. First person, like, I can't pay you.
Yeah.
Will you take equity instead for the next 3 months? But then I'm going to raise something, and they're waiting to see if you can close or not. And you lost a lot of people on that journey because I've got bills to pay. I can't wait any longer.
God,
right?
It's so difficult in a competitive market when people want these types of candidates as
That's
well, right?
hard,
Like,
right?
how?
Yeah. And that again goes to it's easy, let's say, if you're in an environment where you're younger, there might be more or less bills. As soon as people start having like families and something, forget it, right?
Yeah.
And also in the UAE, if you've moved over, there's a unit cost of running here, right? I went without a salary for years here. You will burn through your cash very quickly, right? So that part is very challenging to get that right. But you take on about 5 people, you get a seed round, you get another bridge round, you raise a couple of million, right? It goes to 8 or 10. So it went from myself, my own, beginning of 2019, by 2020 is about 5 of us, 2021 15, end of 22 70. So yeah, that because we did a Series A at January 22 of 20 million, which is large.
That's good, yeah. What was the most exciting period for that for you? Do you feel like because there's like different bits of growth there where it's happened where you've had a few first people, then big amounts of numbers most recently.
I think when it first works, our first transaction was cool.
Yeah.
So one of our team members, Varna, who's still with us.
How did you celebrate that as well?
For about 20 seconds and we went back to work. Yeah. The moments of kind of celebration and levity are fleeting.
Yeah.
Such as the nature of the beast, right? You're always like, there's always the next hill to climb, right? And that is like that for a while. And so the first transaction was cool. Varna sent money to her mum back in Manila in the Philippines.
Nice.
And that was cool.
That's cool.
That was a cool thing to do because that's literally why we set it up to improve that flow. So that was good. I think, the last kind of 2 years, though, the last few years, we had initial success. We did very well and we fundraised well off what was the most buoyant fundraising market ever, driven by low interest rate environment for a while, and then COVID, significant increase in quantitative easing, and then fiscal stimulus. So the market was so hot, and that's what drove inflation, partly what drove inflation so high.
Yeah.
And so you had these monster raises. So Lean raised a major Series A. Now Lean have done very well. They're a bank integration. Hisham and the team have done very well, and they've done a Series B since then. But a number of us did a big Series A, and then afterwards, our plans didn't go to our plans didn't come to fruition, and so then you've got a down round, and the investors are going, "What the hell?" And all of a sudden, the market's turned quite significantly, and you're like, "This has changed." Right? And so I would say since 22, it was beginning of 23 onwards, the last 2.5 years, you've been really in a kind of a tough fundraising market, beginning to green shoots that coming through. US drives fundraising globally in ventures, and the US market is doing well, but it's volatile because this week will we have a tariff? This week will we shoot missiles at Iran? Who knows, right? There's too much volatility there. It's getting better. I reckon that might smooth out a little bit, and it seems to be a little bit calmer now. The underlying US economy is very strong, and the VC is doing well. So I think that will hopefully, I'm bullish. End of this year, beginning of and next year, you'll be in a better environment, and I think that'll be really good for the companies in the Middle East because we're predominantly backed by US venture capital.
Nice,
right?
What does the next 5 to 10 years look like for the business? Would you say?
So I think it's to your point around when your next success stories. We want to drive the firm to profitability at year end because you want to get off that. We get to another milestone, we raise some more money, right? Because then you're always kind of putting yourself and the team under too much pressure, in my view. That's a model that works well for VCs because you are reliant and they call the shots. And we've had incredible VC investors. I'm very grateful for them. And I think they've been really professional and amazingly supportive and very patient. And I think so. The next milestone is driving that kind of to profitability, which we're on course to the end of this year.
Nice.
After then, next year we will go international. From a product point of view and a customer point of view right now, we will just expand what we're currently doing. We're finding the position, and we were too early in this market because we need to basically take different building blocks and put them together. That's what you're always doing in tech, right? You're not writing every line of code or every piece of feature yourself. There are other bits and pieces you can work with to build the optimum kind of product in the market. We finally got into that position really only in the last few months, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so we've gone from being this, hey, we can do your cross-border payments and we can save you money in your FX, which in a market where there's a lot of trading companies, that's good.
Yeah.
And that was working well to, we can be your entire business payment solution, period.
Nice.
Right? And the two areas we're seeing there is we are at a major turning point in innovation in fintech. In tech overall, we're about to enter a new industrial revolution. And you're seeing that in AI.
Yeah.
And in fintech, the factor driving that is cryptocurrency.
Yeah. I guess that kind of moves me on to one of my next questions is like, how do you see the industry changing in the next 5 years? Not necessarily just for HubPay, but in general, next 5 to 10 years.
So the first one is the most obvious, is AI, because that's changing everything.
Yeah.
The rate of change in that, just really, people who are more experienced will point to earlier inflection points. But if you look across the space, just look at the AI on everything from search engines to Twitter, right?
Yeah.
that has hit an inflection point over the last 12 months. The stats around Google's AI and the exponential increase in processing and capability in terms of the value of its outputs it's creating has just fundamentally shifted. So AI will change everything. How does that impact our business? So that would be one big driving force in how that impacts our business.
Yeah.
How would be one? Well, something as simple as you are onboarding a company and getting them set up, and then helping them with their kind of payments.
Mm-hmm.
Bank is still taking 3 to 6 months sometimes to onboard a business, sometimes a bit less, but it's still a heavily manually process. We've fully automated that. We did 2 sprints on AI automations last week as something as basic as form capture, right? You upload a document. A year ago, you could upload the document and it gets off, but you still need to check it. No, it hasn't picked up that correctly. Now there are no errors. There's just no errors, right? It's just completely accurate.
It's crazy.
So you can just literally, you got all your documents, so you literally just drop them in and then everything's automated. Then we need to check it and go through AML and sanctions. We need to have an overview. Well, we've built a whole lot of AI steps to do that, where we still have a person do right the last piece, but it's gone from a week down to 24 hours recently. I think by the end of Q3, we'll have gone from 24 hours to real time in minutes, like 60 seconds for a business, which hasn't happened anywhere.
So efficient, yeah.
Now that's pretty massive.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden stuff. Now you start doing that with payments as well. Everything just becomes so frictionless. Now what is the UAE? UAE has built itself up as a major B2B hub for trading, for business, etc. Well, if you can start doing that around all the payments architecture, the payments is the oil in the engine of that entire kind of industry. So that's one area. The second area is cryptocurrency, and specifically stablecoins. So Circle IPO'd recently, and their IPO exploded in valuation. I would say justifiably. What we're seeing now on the use cases we've done is we have partnered up with other regulated crypto firms in the UAE. So we're licensed as an EMI. If you have a business, we can onboard your business. We can do all your payments in fiat currency, sterling, euros, Japanese yen. We can do that for send out to your customers globally and to other business suppliers. On the crypto side, we then work with companies that are licensed by VARA, and they're sending crypto payments in. So an example would be, and we did one last week, you're in Japan and you want to send money back to the UAE. Well, you just do, traditionally do Japanese yen to dirhams.
Yeah.
That works fine. Yeah, here's the problem with that. The Japanese banks are really slow. I used to work for a Japanese bank. They take ages. Their fees are ferociously high. You're sending Japanese yen out the market.
What would a fee look like? A transaction fee?
2.5%.
Really?
Right?
Wow, yeah.
It's a G3 economy, right? This is not a highly volatile emerging market. There is no reason it should cost that. And it's just taken 2-3 days because the Japan has 3 mega banks in the kind of country. And a bit like RBS back in the day, they're antiquated.
Yeah.
They'll have loads of systems layered on top of each other, so much bureaucracy, and it's very slow. The customer instead transfers it into USDT, Tether's stablecoin, and it was with us in an hour.
Yeah, pretty much instant.
Right? Yeah. And so that's going to get better and better. Now imagine you're in, let's say, DMCC, and you're trading agro commodities, which has now become a major trading hub here. You've got the coffee center in DMCC where they're importing green beans from, let's say, Kenya. They're roasting them in DMCC and they're exporting that to somebody like Waitrose or M&S in Europe. The agro commodities around that, the speed of people, everyone's waiting, everyone's trying to do just-in-time payments, etc. But payments in and out of African countries can take days, sometimes a week. There's issues around dollar liquidity, banking architecture systems. If you can do that to real time, the entire market completely changes. If you can make the UAE the hub for trade payments, and then eventually trade finance and build everything on top of that fully digital, and also in real time, you'll end up eating the entire market, right? And you've already got major trading businesses like DP World here, et cetera, who run all the ports globally for this kind of stuff. And so there is a huge opportunity to take that to the next level.
Yeah.
And so where do we see? We see us as the one of the enablers of that revolution.
Nice. Would you see specifically this region, right? Obviously, I think a lot of fintechs are now moving here for different reasons. Do you feel like this is going to be, as it is already, but a massive global hub in fintech? Do you think it's going to be one of the top ones, or more people will move here? Or
so I challenge on fintech. I don't think it's a global hub at all for fintech. I don't think it's become a fintech hub yet.
Okay.
There's no major fintech here. It has become a crypto hub.
Yeah.
Right. Vara have brought out a very robust, very clear regulatory framework. I don't know how many they've got right now. I looked at it, I think it was 40 firms. Every major crypto firm from Binance to Aqua now to Crypto.com has now got an office here. Yeah. Binance are next door to us here in the UAE.
Nice.
So all the global guys are here, and they're transacting, and they're going to build more and more stuff here. Mm-hmm. DMCC is even building a crypto tower as an example, because there's so many firms coming in. Yeah. So everything from prop trading through to stablecoin solutions for payments on our side, through to just general exchange businesses, it's going to build out more and more and more, right? And I think UAE's done very well at that.
Yeah,
I think that's a ferocious success for Dubai and UAE. Fintech, I think more will happen. I think there's too many regulatory bodies overlapping each other, and it's not clear.
Yeah,
right. You got UACB, DFSA, FSRA, ESCA, right? And so that just needs to be a bit. That's a challenge right now.
Yeah. Obviously, another thing that's booming here is property, right? How do you see fintech and property evolving here?
So I think there's two. So the property market here is obviously enormous.
Yeah. Do you feel like we're in a bit of a bubble? I always follow people on real estate, and some people are saying it's not going to last. Some people say we've only just started. What's your opinion on that sort of stuff?
So I think I'll caveat this with, I'm not a property expert at all.
Yeah.
And like any other market, it's going to be cyclical.
Yeah.
Right? I think what's fundamentally shifted in the UAE is in terms of its addressable market, in terms of who's looking to buy property. It seems if you go back 10 years ago, a lot of the money was maybe coming from Russia and Saudi into the UAE in terms of foreign flows. Now it is everywhere, right? If you're worth, let's say you ran a furniture business in Lagos, Nigeria, or you ran a cement business in Kuala Lumpur, and you've made some money and you want to buy a second home, where are you now doing that? It's not Hong Kong anymore. It's not Singapore. It's Dubai.
Yeah.
Right? And the reality is, for a few reasons, it's a different environment. It's a great and safe investment environment. There's clear laws around ownership that have been now in existence for a long time. So you've got some stability there. There's no income tax. It's the safest city probably on the planet, right? It has every world-class facility, and that's just got better and better each year. I mean, they're going to build what they're building Disney World in Abu Dhabi now. But how much stuff, if you want to do, is there not here?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is, and kudos to them. Look at the Abu Dhabi Comedy Week. There is every major thing. That wasn't the case 10 years ago.
Even like the casinos, right? They're building in
Ras Al Khaimah. Wynn, it will be the number one in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Steve Wynn has the global record for the biggest one in Vegas. And so if you want to look at a barometer, and somebody who's and he is self-made, that guy, right? A lot of the other companies are incorporated businesses. He is very much self-made, and he's chosen the UAE. It's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
And so I think the big thing with any invest market is supply and demand. The UAE is geographically about 80,000 square kilometers. Mm-hmm. The population is 10.5 million people. Well, there's 8 billion people across the world, and how many people now are going, yeah, I probably own a place in Dubai.
Yeah. It's
right?
true.
And so there may be some short-term shifts in market depending on what the overall global macroeconomic environment is, interest rates, etc. I just, in the long term, I just don't see. I see it going one direction. Yeah. If I had money to now, and all my money's stuck in the business at the moment, I would 100% buy a flat here. Yeah. I really would. And so that I think that's a long-term trend for the UAE. I think UAE overall will just become the kind of movies we watched in the 80s and 90s about these futuristic neo-cities. I think it's not just Dubai, it's the UAE, because the UAE will all become completely connected. Yeah. The train lines become connected. It'll all be one kind of mega city, I think.
People say like Europe's migrating east, right? So not similar size population, but maybe eventually one day it will turn into that.
I think it'll be enormous. in our lifetime? Does it go from 10 million up to 100? I don't know, but it
so
could.
much opportunity if that's the case, right? It's crazy.
And I think that's a significant. So I think that's a significant. So I think that's a significant long-term kind of trend.
Yeah, nice, cool. Conscious we haven't got loads of time left, but what advice do you have for any aspiring tech founders or fintech founders? Or
so I think the points I mentioned earlier on, community is everything. Make sure you're in the right community. If you can find that if you can't find that physically, try and find that online.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a founder, I would very much suggest first-time founder definitely go through an accelerator program.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of accelerator programs now in the UAE, to be fair. And then, build and test quickly early on, right? You got something good. Try and find a very efficient way to test something at low cost if you can.
Yeah.
So you can prove MVP, so you can prove product market fit.
Have you done things that have failed? Like I feel like with this conversation, everything, and what I've seen from you guys' business, it's gone from strength to strength. Has there been like times where there has been failures and you've come up against something super tough?
I don't think the business has gone from strength to strength. I think the business started off very well from the 2020 to the 22 timeframe. I think from 22 to where we are now, we had this tough period, and I think a few things drove that. The UAE and the grey listing was a nightmare. We're a fintech business, and we need to work with other financial institutions internationally. You're on the grey list, forget it.
Yeah.
We were too early in terms of a few capabilities, right? The ability to issue IBANs on named accounts virtually, etc. That has now shifted. And so I think we had 2 years of, if we've been honest, going a bit sideways. Yeah, we had a good solution. It was scaling, but not as quick as it has. That has now dramatically shifted. And coming back to your point around, and so I think that to me, it wasn't a failure. It was just a tough period.
Yeah.
However, coming to now, I think we're staged for hypergrowth now.
Nice.
Let me rephrase that. We already begun hypergrowth over the last 3 months.
Amazing.
So since so 3 months ago, we went live with digital onboarding. Beforehand, it was all just done over email, manually. We went from in February to 24 companies onboarding to, by time June came around, 110 in the month.
Wow.
We reckon that'll be in the hundreds by the end of this year on a monthly kind of basis. And then in terms of the product suite we could offer, we went from being, hey, we'll do cross-border payments, we'll do everything. And the biggest piece we spoke about, you mentioned about there as property, was now we can do absolutely everything on the property side. So you're off plan and you need to, and you've got somebody in India who wants to use USDT to buy this crypto to pay for that property. We're the solution you'll use. We're in conversation with every major property developer right now in the UAE. For those property, we can offer a fully integrated solution. So it's just like a payment gateway, like you use your card, except you're using USDT or another cryptocurrency. And then we will deliver dirhams for the full price of that kind of flat.
Incredibly quick as well.
Under 60 minutes from end to end, from what we call a stablecoin sandwich. So going from fiat in another currency, let's say INR, into crypto, into dirhams, into the developer's account here. And so that's been very popular and very successful, and it's growing quickly. But it's all the other pieces around, you're in the UK and you're not resident here, but you want to buy a property, we want to transfer money over and you want to leave it in escrow and have a manager's check. Well, we can do all of that service for you. You want to have a named IBAN account in dirhams, even though you don't have a UAE ID or residency, we'll set that whole thing up as well. So we're working with all the real estate brokers currently in that kind of space for both buy side and sell side.
I think that will change the market massively. I'm not in real estate too much either, but I feel like so many people that they are a bit more reluctant to invest from overseas because they're scared, where's the money going to go, all this kind of stuff.
You're absolutely right.
I think that's a big, big thing for the real estate industry.
I think there's two major pain points in the real estate industry. One is, how do you get money into the UAE?
Yeah.
It's easy from the UK. It is difficult if it's Nigeria or China or India. The cryptocurrency solution solves that problem. And the second problem is, I don't want to send it into a pooled client money account where I don't own that account. It's a third party and I've given POA. It's dangerous. We've seen people get their money stolen.
Yeah.
You want your own account.
People hear these stories, right? So, and that sort of like trickles on, and people get scared and don't want to do it.
And then that can damage confidence in the market, etc. So you need to have a very simple, your own IBAN, your own account, your own ability to send payments in very quickly, hold pieces in escrow, have a managed check where you're in control of it, and you've got view on funds.
Nice, awesome. Is there anything that, I guess, last question? Sorry, I know we're running over a little bit here, but is there anything you know now that you wish you knew earlier?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, all of it. I'd say. I mean, there's stuff you know now that you could have known earlier, but you'd know if you did it again.
Yeah.
Right. How you launch a product, how you build a team, who you'd hire, etc. How you'd build MVP, etc. Right. So there's those pieces, and that's once you've done it, it's easy. Once you know how to drive a car, you know how to drive a car.
Yeah.
There's the second piece where I should have known better. And so January 22, we raised 20 million, top 5 raises in the region.
Yeah.
Brought in US VCs that had never invested, not just in the UAE, but in the region before. Great success. What we should have then done is gone, right, we've got a lot of money in that. Let's make sure we really make this funds last until we get, say, to profitability, etc. But back then the narrative was like, no, the competition's ferocious. You got to absolutely forget about profitability. Profitability for idiots. Forget about monetization. Just volume grow, right? I mean, like a WeWork or an Adam, volume, push it, pump it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great until the market turns.
Yeah.
And the VCs aren't really willing to carry on supporting you. And they go, yeah, how's that profitability? We're like, well, you told us that wasn't important, right? So I think, and I've been through a boom and bust before.
Yeah.
And I should have seen, yes, there's the threat of competition and the threat that somebody comes if you don't grow quite as quickly. Is that the case today? Is that the case right now? Right? What's a bigger risk? Is a bigger risk is you put all this money in and then you run out of cash and it hasn't quite worked and you have to go back to investors and you fail to hit all your targets. That is a far bigger risk.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. That's really what I would say to any founder right now, because you by nature are far too optimistic. Otherwise, why the hell would you do a startup?
Yeah.
Right. You just stay in a far more sensible corporate job. Right. So you have to be optimistic, but that is where you have to go manage that downside risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you so much. That was amazing. Really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.